Hello. Today I'm reading from Sources for America's History, Volume 2, edited by Kevin Sheets. This is Civil Rights Movement Takes a More Militant Turn. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s nonviolent approach to civil rights frustrated some, like Malcolm X, who demanded more direct and immediate action against the system of racial oppression that faced African Americans. Malcolm X, who preached an alternative, black nationalist message, gave this 1964 speech to a symposium on the theme of the Negro Revolt. His public break with the Nation of Islam precipitated his assassination in February of 1965. The question tonight, as I understand it, is the Negro Revolt and where do we go from here? Or what next? In my little humble way of understanding it, it points either toward the ballot or the bullet. Although I am still a Muslim, I am not here tonight to discuss my religion. I am not here to try and change your religion. I'm not here to argue or discuss anything that we differ about, because it's time for us to submerge our differences and realize that it is best for us to first see that we have the same problem, a common problem that will make you catch hell whether you're a Baptist or a Methodist or a Muslim or a nationalist. Whether you're educated or illiterate, whether you live on the boulevard or in the alley, you're going to catch hell just like I am. We're all in the same boat, and we all are going to catch the same hell from the same man. He just happens to be a white man. All of us have suffered here in this country political oppression at the hands of the white man, economic exploitation at the hands of the white man, and social degradation at the hands of the white man. Now, speaking like this, it doesn't mean that we're anti-white. But it does mean we're anti-exploitation, we're anti-degradation, we're anti-oppression. And if the white man doesn't want us to be anti-him, let him stop oppressing and exploiting and degrading us. If we don't do something real soon, I think you'll have to agree that we're going to be forced either to use the ballot or the bullet. It's one or the other in 1964. It isn't that time is running out. Time has run out. 1964 threatens to be the most explosive year America has ever witnessed. The most explosive year. Why? It's also a political year. It's the year when all of the white politicians will be back in the so-called Negro community, jiving you and me for some votes. The year when all of the white political crooks will be right back in your and my community with their false promises, building up our hopes for a letdown, with their trickery and their treachery and their false promises which they don't intend to keep. As they nourish these dissatisfactions, it can only lead to one thing, an explosion. And now we have the type of black man on the scene in America today, I'm sorry, Brother Lomax, who just doesn't intend to turn the other cheek any longer. Louis Lomax was an African-American journalist and civil rights activist who spoke before Malcolm X at this symposium. I'm not a politician, not even a student of politics. In fact, I'm not a student of much of anything. I'm not a Democrat, I'm not a Republican. I don't even consider myself an American. If you and I were Americans, there'd be no problem. Those hunkies that just got off the boat, they're already Americans. Polacks are already Americans. The Italian refugees are already Americans. Everything that came out of Europe, every blue-eyed thing is already an American. And as long as you and I have been over here, we aren't Americans yet. Well, I'm one who doesn't believe in deluding myself. I'm not going to sit at your table and watch you eat with nothing on my plate and call myself a diner. Sitting at the table doesn't make you a diner unless you eat some of what's on their plate. Being here in America doesn't make you an American. Being born here in America doesn't make you an American. Why? If birth made you an American, you wouldn't need any legislation. You wouldn't need any amendments to the Constitution. You wouldn't be faced with civil rights filibustering in Washington, D.C. right now. They don't have to pass civil rights legislation to make a Polak an American. No, I'm not an American. I'm one of the 22 million black people who are the victims of Americanization. One of the 22 million black people who are the victims of democracy, nothing but disguised hypocrisy. So I'm not standing here speaking to you as an American, or a patriot, or a flag saluter, or a flag waver. No, I'm not I. I am speaking as a victim of this American system. And I see America through the eyes of the victim. I don't see any American dream. I see an American nightmare. So it's time in 1964 to wake up. And when you see them coming up with that kind of conspiracy, let them know your eyes are open. And let them know you something else that's wide open too. It's got to be the ballot or the bullet. The ballot or the bullet. If you're afraid to use that expression, you should get out of the country. So you should get back in the cotton patch. You should get back in the alley. They all get the Negro vote. And after they get it, the Negro gets nothing in return. All they did when they got to Washington was give a few big Negroes big jobs. Those big Negroes didn't need big jobs. They already had jobs. That's camouflage. That's trickery. That's treachery. Window dressing. That's why in 1964 it's time now for you and me to become more politically mature and realize what the ballot is for. What we're supposed to get when we cast a ballot. And that if we don't cast a ballot, it's going to end up in a situation where we're going to have to cast a bullet. It's either a ballot or a bullet. Same government that you go abroad to fight for and die for is the government that's in a conspiracy to deprive you of your voting rights, deprive you of your economic opportunities, deprive you of decent housing, deprive you of your decent education. You don't need to go to the employer alone. It is the government itself, the government of America, that is responsible for the oppression and exploitation and degradation of black people in this country. And you should drop it in their lap. This government has failed the Negro. This so-called democracy has failed the Negro. And all these white liberals have definitely failed the Negro. So where do we go from here? First, we need some friends. We need some new allies. The entire civil rights struggle needs a new interpretation, a broader interpretation. We need to look at this civil rights thing from another angle, from the inside as well as from the outside. To those of us whose philosophy is black nationalism, the only way you can get involved in the civil rights struggle is to give it a new interpretation. That old interpretation excluded us. It kept us out. So we're giving a new interpretation to the civil rights struggle as an interpretation that will enable us to come into it, take part in it. And these handkerchief heads who've been dilly-dallying and pussyfooting and compromising, we don't intend to let them pussyfoot and dilly-dally and compromise any longer. Now you're facing a situation where the young Negroes coming up, they don't want to hear that turn the other cheek stuff. No. In Jacksonville, those were teenagers. They were throwing Molotov cocktails. Negroes have never done that before, but it shows you there's a real new deal coming in. There's new thinking coming in. There's a new strategy coming in. It'll be Molotov cocktails this month, and hand grenades next month, and something else next month. It'll be ballots, or it'll be bullets. It'll be liberty, or it'll be death. Black nationalists, those whose philosophy is black nationalism, in bringing about this new interpretation of the entire meaning of civil rights, look upon it as meaning equality of opportunity. While we're justified in seeking civil rights if it means equality of opportunity, because all we're doing there is trying to collect for our investment. Our mothers and fathers invested sweat and blood. 310 years we worked in this country without a dime in return. I mean without a dime in return. You let the white men walk around here talking about how rich this country is, but you never stop to think how it got rich so quick. It got rich because you made it rich. Whenever you're going after something that belongs to you, anyone who's depriving you of the right to have it is a criminal. Understand that. Whenever you're going after something that is yours, you are within your legal rights to lay claim to it. And anyone who puts forth any effort to deprive you of that which is yours is breaking the law, is a criminal. And this was pointed out by the Supreme Court decision. It outlawed segregation, which means segregation is against the law, which means segregationists are breaking the law. A segregationist is a criminal. You can't label him as anything other than that. And when you demonstrate against segregation, the law is on your side. The Supreme Court is on your side. Now, who is it that opposes you in carrying out the law? The police department itself, with police dogs and clubs. Whenever you demonstrate against segregation, whether it's segregated education, segregated housing, or anything else, the law is on your side, and anyone who stands in the way is not the law any longer. They are breaking the law. They are not representatives of the law. Anytime you demonstrate against segregation and a man has the audacity to put a police dog on you, kill that dog. Kill him, I'm telling you. Kill that dog. I say it, if they put me in jail tomorrow, kill that dog. Then you'll put a stop to it. Now, if these white people in here don't want to see that kind of action, get down and tell the mayor to tell the police department to pull the dogs in. That's all you have to do. If you don't do it, someone else will. If you don't take this kind of stand, your little children will grow up and look at you and think, shame. If you don't take an uncompromising stand, I don't mean go out and get violent, but at the same time, you should never be nonviolent unless you want to run into some nonviolence. Unless you run into some nonviolence. I'm nonviolent with those who are nonviolent with me. But when you drop that violence on me, when you made me go insane and I'm not responsible for what I do, that's the way every Negro should get. Anytime you know you're within the law, within your legal rights, within your moral rights, in accord with justice, then die for what you believe in. And don't die alone. Let your dying be reciprocal. This is what is meant by equality. What's good for the goose is good for the gander. When we begin to get in this area, we need new friends. We need new allies. We need to expand the civil rights struggle to a higher level, to the level of human rights. When you are in a civil rights struggle, whether you know it or not, you are confining yourself to the jurisdiction of Uncle Sam. No one from the outside world can speak out on your behalf as long as you struggle. Your struggle is a civil rights struggle. Civil rights come within the domestic affairs of this country. All of our African brothers and all our Asian brothers and our Latin American brothers cannot open their mouths and interfere in the domestic affairs of the United States. As long as it's civil rights, this comes under the jurisdiction of Uncle Sam. But the United Nations has what's known as a Charter of Human Rights. It has a committee that deals in human rights. You may wonder why all the atrocities that have been committed in Africa and Hungary and Asia and in Latin America were brought before the UN, and the Negro problem is never brought before the UN. This is part of the conspiracy. This old, tricky, blue-eyed liberal who is supposed to be your friend and my friend, supposed to be in our corner, supposed to be subsidizing our struggle, and supposed to be acting in the capacity of an advisor, never tells you anything about human rights. They keep you wrapped up in civil rights. And you spend so much time barking up the civil rights tree, you don't even know there's a human rights tree on the same floor. When you expand the civil rights struggle to the level of human rights, you can then take the case of the black man in this country before the nations in the UN. You can take it before the General Assembly. You can take Uncle Sam before a world court. But the only level you can do it on is the level of human rights. Civil rights keeps you under its jurisdiction, under his jurisdiction. Civil rights keeps you in his pocket. Civil rights means you're asking Uncle Sam to treat you right. Human rights are something you were born with. Human rights are your God-given rights. Human rights are the rights that are recognized by all nations on this earth. And any time one violates your human rights, you can take him to the world court. Uncle Sam's hands are dripping with blood, dripping with the blood of the black man in this country. He's the earth's #1 hypocrite. He has the audacity, yes he has, imagine him posing as a leader of the free world. The free world, and you over here singing, "We shall overcome." Expand the civil rights struggle to the level of human rights. Take it into the United Nations where our African brothers can throw their weight on our side, where our Asian brothers can throw their weight on our side, where our Latin American brothers can throw their weight on our side, and where 800 million Chinamen are sitting there waiting to throw their weight on our side. Let the world know how bloody his hands are. Let the world know the hypocrisy that's practiced over here. Let it be the ballot or the bullet. Let him know that it must be the ballot or the bullet.